Bye. Okay. All right. A very good morning to all our viewers and listeners. Once again, it's a blessing to have you today, Friday, on this ACFIM Talks, another edition. And today we have a distinguished guest. He's also a former candidate. I'll introduce him in a short while. But before I do the introductions, allow me to introduce myself for those who are joining us for the very first time. This is ACFIM Talks. It's a weekly talk show. We discuss money in politics, looking at the various angles, from practitioners to researchers, and the various perspectives so that we can inform policy and improve our electoral democracy. ACFIM Talks is a product of Alliance for Campaign Finance Monitoring, and its main purpose is to deepen the awareness and the understanding on this subject concerning money in politics and why it is important in the governance of our country. In the week, allow me to take you through in 1 minute the things that have made headlines that are critical worth talking about. The much awaited for AstraZeneca vaccine has finally arrived, and already vaccination is ongoing. Just for those of you, I need to remind you that the first batch is targeting 150,000 health workers, targeting 550,000 teachers, including other service providers in the social sectors. It's also targeting about 500 persons who are below 50 years with underlying health complications. It's also targeting over 3.3 million persons aged above 50. And I think for the ministry is also, Ministry of Health wants to procure more AstraZeneca vaccine doses so that it can scale up the vaccination. That is in response to the COVID-19. I thought I would share that for anybody out there who would want to know what's happening. Quickly also, the Attorney General's report on COVID is faulting government for failing to account for over 56 billion. And you all remember that the ministries, departments, and agencies at the height of COVID received 345.6 billion Uganda shillings. And a big chunk of this, I think about 284 billion came from the supplementary budget. And the collections you made, the donations you made towards the cause amounted to about 11.6 billion, and 27 billion came from the contingency fund. So cumulatively, the Auditor General's report so far is faulting a number of MDAs, specifically the Office of the Prime Minister that was at the forefront of delivering the COVID-19 relief. Let's see how that progresses. Again, another, not a very good thing, though I would need to share, that has been in the media is our date. You remember, since this has been a question of discussion for a while, that the Uganda's external debt burden is starting to get at worrying levels. In fact, we are starting to exceed the limits, currently standing at 41% of our GDP, gross domestic. For those of you who don't know, the GDP of Uganda is around 151.17 trillion Uganda shillings, which is about 41.24 billion US dollars. So, and for the last 3 years, our debt has been growing astronomically from 33.5 trillion to 63.3 trillion as of December 2020. I think that should be of concern. I think our borrowing is a bit getting out of hand here, and we are paying an interest of 13.69, up from 12.5%. I think that's not good for our economy. Another banger, which I need to share with you, could be the last one though, is the race for the speaker is already on. And already there's the camp of Kadaga, the incumbent speaker, and also the camp of Jacob Olanya. Of course, another contestant is Semju Ibrahim Nganda, but the main contest is between these two. One is the current speaker, the other one is the current deputy speaker. So let's see how that shapes up. I'll not speak about Chagulanyi's petition because that one is now still news. It was withdrawn. And also maybe last for the farmers out there, the issue of the ban on maize. I think Kenya has rescinded the choice, the ban, and we are back on trading maize with Kenya, but with tough conditions. That is it. And this is now when I jump straight into why we are here. We are discussing today a topic that is looking at the changing landscape of Uganda's politics. You'll agree with me that for the last 15 years or so, in fact, since 2000, the landscape of Uganda's politics has been changing. We'll be having a discussion around that, and mainly thinking it towards the electoral politics, because that's what we mainly do and mainly discuss. In the studio with us today, allow me to introduce to you Baryeke Daniel, who is a former member of parliament candidate for Butemba Constituency, Kyankwanzi District. He also stood in the primaries of NRM in 2006, Chivoga West, then it was Chivoga District. And he never went through. He came back again, contested in 2021. Unfortunately, again, it didn't go through. So we shall have a conversation around that, what exactly happened. But on the sidelines, he's currently into farming and agriculture. And he's also very actively involved in community emancipation. Professionally, he pursued procurement, marketing, and business administration. So, Daniel, you are most welcome to Actim Talks.
Thank you.
Yes, allow me straight away to start dissecting this conversation with my first question. I know you are not a stranger or new to politics. So, and I need to understand, given your experience since 2006 and now in 2021 elections, in both where you've contested, but even where you've not been contesting, you've been keenly observing our politics, especially electoral politics. What has changed since then in terms of how we conduct our electoral politics, the way we campaign, the way we sell our messages? What has changed? What differences do you see when you contested in 2006 and now in 2021?
Thank you, Felix. In 2006, somehow, somewhere, the voters were interested in the message. However much there were issues of buying sodas, whatever, but it wasn't, the voters were not as mad as now, because currently, I actually got so disappointed that they didn't need to hear anything. What mattered most is you call a meeting without buying drinks, then there is no message that will be taken at all. Meaning, then some would even negotiate. Give me, in the other camp, give me 5 million, I just come. Some would. So it's a money-making venture vis-a-vis which should be the service delivery. The electorates are not bothered because they say Mugenda Korea, that the MPs are going to eat. So they need and Okurio, meaning that theirs is now. When you go to parliament, you'll be eating, so you need to give them money now. And previously it wasn't that. At least the voters had expectations of service delivery, the roles of a member of parliament. But now it's complete dead, I should use that word. What is important? Chotua, chitukua. It's like give and take.
Give and
Whoever
take,
gives,
transactional.
pardon?
It is
Yeah,
transactional.
so it's transaction. Actually, now it's transactional politics. And no one is just very, very few, maybe less than 1%, I don't know. But those who support genuinely, who support the cause, who support the message, who support the caliber, the capacity of a candidate, most of them follow you because they want to eat. And I think you sympathize with them, maybe even up there, maybe the messages. You go up there, you transact. It's transactional politics, it's transactional leadership rather than transformational leadership or transformational politics. So that's my take.
I need to, picking it from there, I need to find out, because you are describing a shift in voter behavior and voter expectations. But I don't think that shift can't be explained, because why are we now having voters transacting politics? What happened? Why are we in a situation whereby the current crop of voters is more interested in getting something now than the message, than the capacity, than the manifesto? What happened? What changed?
Yeah, as I said, maybe from experience, the voters have seen that when they elect leaders just go there, go to either parliament or to the local government to transact. So what does that mean? They don't go there to lobby for services. They don't go there to do effective representation or legislation or oversight roles for the case of parliament, even at the district council, or even at sub-county, at all levels, I should say. So they just go there to transact. So the vote, you excuse the voters. It's the leaders that have set the precedent of transacting. So the voters are right to demand for what they can get there, and then they know that you've gone and you are going to make deals, and maybe that's what the biggest challenge to the top political actors in this country, to change the message, to change the practice, to the campaign commercialized politics, money in politics. Yeah, that's what I think.
That's what you think. Still carrying that conversation around voters. When you contested, from your experience, what were those things? When you contested,
Yes. Yeah.
what were those things that voters were specifically asking for?
When I contested.
Yeah, when you were campaigning in 2021, recently here. What were those things that voters were mainly asking for from you?
Okay, obviously they would start with services, for example, roads, water, services, education, and all. Obviously, building churches, contributing to saving groups. Uh, most especially those. But again, if you leave a worshiping place, a church, a mosque, or whatever, without contributing, then they get angry. They even demand. They even follow you. Now, then, if you call a meeting without buying drinks and all that, they will not listen. They don't want even to see it. So you would find that then I would even tell them that, look, do you know why you are leaders don't come back to you because they live here when they are financially injured, and when they go to parliament or at the district or at the sub-county, whatever level, they are trying to compensate, to look for. Actually, I learned that why corruption is so high. I mean, even I think good people who join politics are forced to be corrupt because the society we are operating in, uh, they treasure the money than the message. Even so, even the good people who just go in for service delivery, for the real roles of the leaders at whatever level, I think they are forced to, because either you go in to hugely spend and maybe even borrow, then when you leave and you are broke and you are financially injured, you will obviously transact. You will look for deals to in order to survive. So it's a catch-22. I think some leaders before set a precedent. Now the voters learn, and now those who are coming in are just they either go in if they have the passion to serve, then they will sell whatever they have, or they've gathered some money, whether it's dirty money, whether it's whatever. Because I think, actually, my experience tells me that corrupt people will be the ones to to remain in politics, because if you are not corrupt, and I think you can't heavily finance the unnecessarily exorbitant political financial demand. So at the end of that day, even if you go in when you are not corrupt, you will be forced to be corrupt. So I don't know, maybe
Interesting.
yeah.
That's quite interesting because you are touching something that augurs well with the report ACFIM published about 2 years back, that was trying to understand how commercialized electoral politics affects various electoral participants. And when you talk about representation as one of the cardinal mandate of legislators being abandoned, and you have leaders who come through a very skilled process that they buy their way into positions of leadership. You can't expect them to represent and legislate in the favor of the constituencies they represent. But now, I'm going to ask you a little bit of a question, which I don't know if it's personal to you, but it's very interesting for me to know. Because you've mentioned some of in passing, the areas you spent on your resources when you were canvassing for votes. In our study as ACFIM, we were trying to put a figure on how much an MP would possibly spend in 2021. We estimated that about 500 million Uganda shillings would be the average expenditure for someone to contest for a parliamentary race. And that figure had more than doubled, in fact, tripled compared to the 2016, when again we did a similar study and established that by then one would need about 150 million Uganda shillings. I want to know from you, approximately how much did you spend on your campaign?
What should I say? I spent hugely the little resources I had, and I found that I was spending to the bottomless hole, I should say. So later I got disgusted, and I'm like, let me remain in the race, but I will not be. I just actually, in essence, I just pulled out because I found it was useless to sell of whatever I had in order to, because my message was good, they would appreciate it. But later, minus the other issues like tribalism and all that, I think money is a disgusting thing in our Ugandan
in our politics. So
Yeah.
are you? I just there. You are saying you spent hugely a figure you are not probably have not yet calculated to share with us. But could you argue that partly you lost because there were people who spent much more than what you had? Did resources determine who won?
Yeah, because for example, the figure I started with, it was all rotating around. Me, I came with the message and it was bought in, the voters accepted it and all that. But when it came to resources, it did not become so much there. And later, the message could, because I mean, you need a lot of money. Every activity that is required is a lot of money. Actually, I even want, I kept giving examples of America. I don't know how I wish what we are discussing here, our dear president and the top political actors would listen in. I don't know if a rich country like America, there are political contributions for somebody to run for a president and all that. Then what about in a developing country like Uganda and other African countries? In Uganda, for example, we need that, and whereby, in order to fight corruption, they vet and then they contribute, because you are just going to do a social service, not a business. But now it's a business, unfortunately, and the highest bidder most of the time takes it, minus other factors like tribalism, where people support their own and all that, but most especially money. So when I saw that it was yes, they bought my message, they accepted it, but they wanted a lot of resources, and I'm like, no, I cannot be a beggar when I live, because you don't have the guarantee that, because I know in primaries again, my colleagues spent, the heaviest spenders did not even get the vote at the, because it had other dynamics. So I'm like, rather I've spent what I've spent. Now let me keep in the race. Whoever wants to vote my message will vote my message. Whoever wants to vote money will not vote me. And that's what exactly I did. And I think across the board, from your experience, maybe that's what everyone is. Those who win because of money, you find they are indebted, so they are looking for deals to compensate the loss. That's why actually somebody told me, if you want to be poor, to die poor, join politics, and I accept. Yeah, so
Okay.
very challenging this.
Yeah, there's a question here from one of our viewers, and is asking whether if you had spent, probably you would have won the election. And I think is Henry Muguzi is asking a question that do you think if you had the money to spend, you would have won the election? And I think it's reinforcing what you've just said. Probably,
Yes.
if you had the money,
yes,
really,
because
probably you'd be waiting for May to swear in.
Yes, I can assure you the way my message was picked and the way I was welcomed, however, other dynamics, if I had the money, I would have won, because at least my message was sparked. I can
Okay, there's something there. Still discussing money in this context. Looks like when it became so hot for you, when the race became so hot for you, you jumped out.
It became so hot.
When the race became so hot for you, you jumped out, because you could not spend so much anymore. But let's briefly discuss the issue of, did you find yourself borrowing some of your resources for campaigns, or selling some of your property to raise money to campaign? How did you how did you mobilize your resources? Because we've had candidates who have sold everything they have, who have borrowed heavily, they are indebted, and they have lost, and their lives have been shattered. I don't know your situation. Did your sources of financing campaigns, did they
Uh,
involve debts?
I entered the race with the little savings of mine. Then my hope was that those who believe in my capacity of delivery and all my qualities, those who knew me well, would contribute for the cause. So when I spent what I had, because first and foremost, my family was, many people are not, tried to stop me not to get into politics because I had lost a lot in the primaries. It was a boomerang at that time of 2005. So everyone was like, Dan, don't go back to politics. But my heart was, some people were misusing the name of the president. Some people, it was too much, so it needed a savior. So I had to go in. And I trusted people that, look, being that you know me well, and this is a national cause, I expected them to contribute for me. But later, when I entered the race and spent, I went back to the people because I had agreed with the family that, look, yes, a lot was wasted during 2005. So the little I remained with could not be again put back to make my family suffer again. So, because I suffered a lot in 2005 up to, because of again greed and all that. So, I went back to the people. I thought they would support me. They would support the cause. They would support good legislation in parliament. They would support exactly what a legislator is supposed to do. But surprisingly, no one was, very few are willing because they think, one, they are disgusted. Actually, people would tell me, why did you go there? Just, don't you know it's a wastage of resources? Why did you go there? And then I'm like, but I went to serve, not to make money. Then they are like, you are naive, you are lost. You don't know that the politics of Uganda today is about deal making, money making, and resource wasted. So, with those disappointments, I spent what I spent. I mobilized, I borrowed where I borrowed, but I'm like, I'm not proceeding with this because the demand was so huge and the resources were so limited. So I just kind of pulled out. I kept in the race to finish off, but I had gotten disappointed. But good enough, uh, I saved a lot of situations. Those who know. And I think the good name of the NIM was saved. The name of the president was saved because I participated, and the name of the establishment was saved. Those from those who are masquerading that they were sent, they were doing work for the president and all that. But otherwise, I just I'm not doing well currently because I didn't have a lot. But thus I avoided being a pauper. I avoided being a pauper because if I was to sell and then maybe now I would be in the hospital because of stress. So I avoided.
Imagine.
Yeah, and I sympathize with whoever lost an election after spending the whole they had. It's very disappointing. I don't know what our top leaders I mean, they need to give a gift to this country, either way, whether the president, whether the opposition. This fight of what I saw Mujuzi Henry doing, I think we need to combine forces to save the country. The country is captured and corruption will have to increase, and non-passionate leaders will always be in the position of leadership because they have the money, irrespective of where they got it from, irrespective of how they got it. But those are the people that will be leading this country because of money. And it's disappointing. And it is, I don't know, our leaders need to help this country to decommercialize our politics, to transformational leadership rather than transactional leadership.
Okay. Cash words, politics of deal making. We are going to go for a break, but before you go for a break, when we come back, I want us to dive deeper. One, you talked about that you borrowed some money for the campaigns, but I would also take you back in 2005 where you contested in the primaries because you said you suffered a lot. The reason why we are having this discussion and conversation is that we want people to appreciate when we say that commercialized electoral politics is bad for our democracy, bad for the country. People like you to come out and emphasize these things we've been talking about and start to believe on how can we reform and change our politics, because you and I agree something must be done. But when we come back, we are going to continue with the conversation, but also take it a little bit deeper and look at the performance of NRM in the region, but also the performance of parliament over time because of money. And then also we look at issues around leadership and the quality of democracy because of commercialized electoral politics. Let's take a break and then we'll come back in the next 1 minute.
Uganda's democratization process suffers from highly commercialized politics. Too much money circulates in Uganda's election, and it's mind-blowing where it comes from. Uganda's economic experience a dip in gross domestic product, GDP, every time a general election is concluded. One way of curbing this is through campaign finance legislation. And this is what ACFIM has been advocating since 2015. This advocacy intensified in 2019.
ACFIM has been able to engage the different caucuses of parliament so that they can appreciate that there is a bigger problem when it comes to money in politics. And also appreciate that the only easy way of addressing that problem is through a legislation. ACFIM has engaged MPs, but also mobilizing them to support the campaign finance law.
On February 26th and 27th, debate on campaign finance legislation finally reached the floor of Parliament following 5 years of sustained advocacy.
We have seen the economy really being affected by a lot of money flowing, chasing little, and causing inflation. And this is something which we felt that it is extremely important to really regulate, come up with a law to limit this big expenditure of money that really affects and hurts our economy. Someone would pour 2 billion in an election. Imagine for a member of parliament slot.
Campaign financing we are raising, if we really become serious, it will be done. But there will be colleagues who say we don't need it, but until it hits them, that's what I know. So for me, I would suggest, Madam Speaker, that my colleague there be allowed to bring that campaign financing bill to attach something in the electoral process other than waiting, because it's an opportunity for it.
After 2 days of heated debate, legislators confirmed with the recommendation of the Legal and Parliamentary Committee that Uganda needs not provisions scattered in different electoral laws, but a standalone law on campaign financing. This is a reinforcement of ACFIM's position on the same.
This being a new area of the law within our legislative advocacy efforts, many members of parliament felt that regulation of political finance would be a move to kick themselves out of parliament, because you realize that most of them do come to parliament as a result of excessive expenditures during elections.
When we heard that the Committee on Legal was coming to Bunyoro, we took it as a golden opportunity to massively mobilize local people. We're interested in making sure that we emphasize the need to legislate on campaign financing, specifically for the committee to appreciate the need to create a cap on how much and how the money that is invested in campaigns is tracked.
If campaign finance disclosure provisions had gotten integrated into the national electoral laws, it would have created a higher level of transparency and accountability.
If
Welcome back to ACFIM Talks from the break. For those of you who are just joining us in the studio, we have Baryeke Daniel, a former MP candidate for Butemba Constituency in Kyankwanzi District. He also contested in 2005 in the NRM primaries. Then it was Chivoga West, Chivoga District. And I want to pick it up from there. But remember that we are live on our Facebook pages, on ACFIM Uganda YouTube, ACFIM UG Twitter, at ACFIM UG Twitter, ACFIM, the Facebook link. And then also we are live on the Facebook pages of our partners, Anti-Corruption Coalition Uganda, ACU. We also are live on Mirac and also Kick Corruption out of Uganda. So the conversation is still going on. Quickly, you mentioned that your experiences of 2005 were really nasty. What exactly did you lose? Paint a picture for someone there who thinks this arena is contesting in the nature and the quality of our politics is a joke. What exactly did you lose in terms of how did it impact on you negatively for you to enter into the, because I also know the primaries of NRA are not a cheap feat. They're quite costly. So probably you spent yourself and lost, but what exactly did you lose? How did it affect you?
Thank you, Felix. Yeah, in 2005, I rejected a political bribe of 500 million from one of the candidates who was powerful, strong, well, government minister. And he decreed that I would be broke because he knew that, yes, I was popular, and he knew that he tried to bribe me. I rejected that 500 million that time, and he decreed to finish me off. And I can tell you that he almost succeeded, because I lost everything, and I was put in 12 real political persecution. I was put in 12 yes, 3 prisons and 9 police cells on trumped-up charges, and anything. There is no any case that required to have me arrested. It was purely to weaken me so that I don't come up again. And I lost virtually everything. So when I say I suffered a lot, actually it's by God's grace that I survived him, because his political position of an MP knew that it was the one that giving him a ministerial position that was so lucrative that the moment I win it, and it would be, he would not then be made a minister, so he would not access the money. But that is behind me now. I don't want a lot to dwell on it. But it was an experience. It was a tough experience, and that's why everyone was so against my contesting
in
again.
2021.
Yeah, because it was I was just coming up again, and again going back to where I died from, kind of. So everyone was so much against it, worried. But again, unfortunately, when I see something not being done right, the inner me feels I have a role to play. And I think it's not me alone. Actually, my party in Narium, how I wish they would do seriously. And to me, I think as you interview many people in commercialized politics, I think you also come up with solutions. You don't only listen to
Yes,
stories.
we do.
But, yeah, because I want to believe if the process of card identification, cadre development, cadre placement, and in line with fighting corruption, maybe Uganda would develop easier, and good leaders,
Yes.
in their right places, not just this business of whoever has a lot is going to buy off her or his win. It's a very big disappointment to the country, even to NRM revolution. And when I hear opposition guys, I don't hear them talk about that. I don't know, because I know my experience again. A whole chairman of MOB in one of the sub-counties was put in negotiating with me that I have all the NOB coordinators. If you give me 20 million, I will give you all the NOB coordinators in the You can see that however much opposition claims to be good, but it's a disease across the board.
Yes, across.
It's a disease across the board. It's the transactional politics of deals, and it's I don't know. Actually, me now from this experience, I realized that however much the inner me wants to play a role, however much the inner me can save situations, however much like I saved the situation, at least those who are annoyed with the president, those who are annoyed with NRM because of one of the whoever was using their names, at least I sorted it.
So
At least
not all is lost on your end. Are you going to contest in 2026?
Come again?
Is the inner you again compelling you to come back in 2026?
That's where I was coming from. I think I'm in a different society. I don't know. I know maybe there are good people out there, who have shunned politics because of its dynamics.
Yes.
And I see myself. I think I might, however much the inner me has a role, but I rather play a role in a different capacity if I can, rather than wasting time and money, and because the voters need a lot of sensitization. How I wish we would, I will look at you guys to partner with people who are like me to sensitize, to do a lot of sensitization about commercial politics vis-a-vis service delivery, vis-a-vis democracy. That's the role I would want to play. That's why
we would really be happy to partner with you. Indeed, we are partnering with one of the things that ACFIM is really proud to do is to work with all like-minded people who believe in this progressive thinking that unregulated use of money in politics is bad for our democracy, is bad for our country, is bad for our economy. And we are, just to let you know, we are also trying to legislate on the use of money. You pointed out America, USA, as one of the countries that is doing some good work around legislating on how much is used, although with challenges, but at least they have a progressive goal. We want to see the same thing in Uganda. We've tried to push for a law that can legislate on campaign financing. Also, we are trying to reform political party financing. So probably as more and more people like you through experiences appreciate that what we are talking about is a genuine cause, it is not partisan, this voice will eventually fall on the people who believe we can do something about it. But you talked about people in opposition, the likes of Noob.
come again.
Recently that could we argue that the recent wave that we saw happen in Uganda, in Busoga, could it probably offer a glimmer of hope where somehow money did not necessarily direct the outcomes of the elections because big spenders lost? Is there something to look into this wave and say probably there's some level of sanity that people can now vote, irrespective of the outcomes, can now vote not necessarily influenced by money, or it is too early for us to make such assertions?
Yeah, I mean, there in politics, I've told you that in primaries, in Butemba Constituency, my friends or my colleagues who participated in the primaries, the biggest spenders were knocked out. For example, in other parameters like maybe trade, anything, most. So I would say yes, if there's a political fatigue, and in any case, NRA did not win the war because it had a lot of money. So if there's fatigue or if there are some tribal considerations or whatever, yeah, I mean, money can be eaten and somebody votes a different person considering under different considerations. Yeah. And to me, that's what in Busoga and Uganda, I mean, that it was purely
other factors other than money.
Yeah. There were other factors other than money, and that does not rule out that money wasn't spent, and many people are not broke. Even will die of many diseases that come with stress, finance. You know, it's so disappointing that maybe there should be serious vetting so that able leaders in the parties are seriously supported. Then those who reject the vetting, if it's free and fair, maybe then they go on the. I even doubt that if there was proper vetting and all that, then maybe the issues of independence would even be very few. I want to believe so. But you see, from the beginning, there's a lot of corruption. To me, actually, instead of calling it commercialized politics, I would call it corruption in politics. Yeah, because it's purely corruption, and at the end of the day, the voters, I don't blame them at all because they were misled or they were disappointed, So they are just there to get whatever they can there and then, and that's it, because they know a leader will not come back. So it comes back to do the sensitization.
There's also a level of mistrust. There's this issue here. Over time, people have been arguing that, and which is viably true, that the quality of debate in parliament, because when you compare the parliament of 2000, the parliament of 5 years after 2005, 2006, then the parliament of 2011, over time, the quality of parliament has been regenerating. When you look at the debate in itself, over time in parliament, the quality is really on a decline. And some people are apportioning the blame on the process through which we elect our leaders, partly in there where you place what you called political corruption or corruption in elections. When you reflect in the past 15 years, and also you project in the next 10 years, where do you see the quality of parliament and the quality of leaders if things don't change and remain the way they are or get worse?
Come again, I've lost you.
I'm saying when you look at the quality of debate in parliament, over time, everyone agrees that it is on a decline. But from your perspective, like someone who has been around for quite some time, where do you see the parliament, the quality of parliament, but also the quality of leadership, if things don't change and they remain the way they are, or even they get worse in the next 10 years? Especially, speak as a cadre and someone from the NRM, where do you see this country in terms of leadership if we continue to have our politics being driven by political corruption, by commercialization of politics? And in there, when you answer that question, what can we do? What are your thoughts? What are the practical solutions?
Number one, service delivery. Do you know why, for example, NUP Wave 1 is because of corruption? Is because of poor service delivery. And you know why there is a poor service delivery? You spend all you have in politics. Okay, you win. You buy not winning, you buy your vote.
Yes, you buy your way.
Vote, yeah, you buy your vote. When you go to parliament, you are looking for deal. Whoever will call you to give you some money, to compromise you, whether to support a badly law, whether to support anything, you will. And this business of lobbying and all that to bring services to the community, or coming back to the people themselves, the voters, you fear because you don't have money, so you will not need, you will be detached from your voters. So you will not know what the voters are going through, what they need, so that you just stand on the floor of parliament and present your constituency's needs. So at the end of that day, there is poor service delivery, there is anger for voters. That's why you see the rate of loss for the members of parliament is too much.
The attrition rate, yes.
Political corruption is a catch-22. So you go there, you try to survive, you are trying to compensate the loss, and you are not down with people, and voters are angry with you. By the time you come back, you will lose, and at the end of the day, you will be poor. So to me, the way forward is simple. Irrespective of the political actors, is to sensitize to the campaign political corruption, what you call commercialized politics, and most especially for our majority voters, the young team, because they are the majority at the end of the day, and they are the ones that can. When I shared this chat with. Most of them are already online, but some of the old people, we are not so much we are not as informed as the .com era now, and we need to decampaign. We need to decampaign man in politics. We need to promote service leadership. Service leadership is what is required in all parties, irrespective of NRM. Even let the opposition who blame NRM, who blame this, let them set an example. I was so much I thought no, they didn't, they were not as corrupt as they, but I got shocked.
They come from the same society.
This is it. So at the end of that day, we need to decampaign money. We need to promote service leadership. We need to promote good leadership quality. We need to vet and look at the track record. We need of the leaders. At the end of the day, I would say all the leaders, most especially the political party chairpersons, religious leaders, civil society, everyone, you need to speak, you need to decampaign, even the donors, instead of financing some unnecessary activities. This is the campaigning. Political corruption is the key thing that will develop a country. Not only, I think, in Uganda, but most especially, I think, Africa, because I think the West somewhere they are trying their level best. And to me, that's why I said I'm more than willing to be a partner. That's the role I'm ready to play.
Thank you so much.
But at the end of the day, somebody spends money, but capacity is the people choose capacity rather than leadership capacity rather than financial capacity. At the end of the day, in parliament, in the district council, in the sub-county council, people are not going there to measure how much you have. You are just going there to legislate, to ensure that the household, at least the role of a leader should be the well-being of the voter. The household income should always be the main goal of a leader, every leader at every level. And you cannot fight for household income improvement when you are fighting to compensate what you lost in a political campaign.
Sure. Fair enough. Our time is fast spent. We are having less than 5 minutes before we can get out of here. My last question, which you want to answer briefly, because you've provided solutions that are mainly touching the voter, changing voter behavior and attitudes. But what about the leaders? What should we do? Because there have been voices saying that how do we target the supply side? The voters are on the demand side. The supply side, these are the candidates, the leaders who are willing to bribe their way up. So what do we do with such quality of candidates that are presented to us to choose from? Of course, there have been arguments that could it be possible that we reduce the attractive nature of these positions, like an MP, do something about the emoluments they get as one of way of making sure that we mainly get service-oriented leaders as opposed to businessmen, because politics in Uganda seems to be very lucrative. What's your take?
Thank you, Felix. I remember in 2006 or 2005, our senior leader, Alhaj Moses Chigongo, wrote in a newspaper, I don't remember, but that's when the political corruption had started, people selling their buildings in billions to bribe the voters. I remember in 2005 or 2004, but I don't remember the newspaper. He said, in order to retain revolutionary leaders like those who came from NRM, we need to pay Parliament, members of Parliament. Then he proposed 300,000, so that people they distress those who are interested in money. They interest those who are interested in service. You understand? So, to me, I don't know whether it is still possible because people are mad with money, but our dear president, our dear chairman of the NRM, our chief freedom fighter, I trust his mobilization skills. How I wish he would campaign man in politics. How I wish he would engage even his cabinet and his whatever level. For example, to slash the salary of the members of parliament. Because I know maybe most people now, I think, go to parliament to make money. Very few go there to serve. So if the salaries or the package, the financial package is reduced, maybe then service-oriented leaders would be interested in to go and serve the way rather than to go and make money. To me, and not only even the as I said, the heads of political parties in other parties should exactly do the same, so that everyone decampaigns political corruption. To me, that's what I can say. And if each of us can do his role in that line, I want to believe that we would get court leaders, we would get a court parliament, we would get even local government, district council that is service oriented, even the sub-county. Deals would reduce, because deals are not only at parliamentary level, they are everywhere, even in local government. And money is not only at parliamentary level, it's across the board. Even Chairman LC1, the other day, I was asking somebody who contested for council at the sub-county. He told me, I spent a lot. So, and it's across the board. And it's actually me, my thing, I told those I could. I told them I'm disappointed. We don't have a country, because people with money, irrespective of whether they come to deal, will be the one in leadership, and they will not help the society. Instead, they will be milking. So to me, my personal view is that we don't have a country. The money has captured the country, and at the end of the day, our children and our grandchildren will suffer. That's what I can say.
That's what you can say. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Our time
to come up and campaign this.
Okay. Thank you so much. Our time is fast spent. We are over a minute, actually 3 minutes into top of the hour. We had Baryeke Daniel, who is the former MP candidate for Butemba Constituency, also contested in 2005 NRM primaries for Chiwoga West, Chiwoga District. And it's been glad and we've been very happy to have you today to discuss and share your thoughts on how the landscape of Uganda's politics has changed over time, and it's not a very good change. This is the takeaway. He says we should sensitize and decampaign political corruption, talk against money in politics. All of us is a fight and a war for everyone, irrespective of which color you belong to or political divide you belong to. We should promote service leadership, from service-oriented to politics-solved leadership. That narrative should change. Once again, see you next time. Same place. I'll be with you again, discussing nothing other than money in politics. Till then, God bless. Bye-bye.
The monster of money politics is eating up Uganda's democracy. When you take money from a candidate, it means you are feeding the monster. Then you become a part of the problem. When a candidate who overspends on campaigns is elected, he or she will not represent voters but himself. He or she will engage in corruption to recover campaign money. Social services will not be delivered and the voter will suffer more. Voter, let's be wise. Give democracy a chance. Do not sell your vote. Focus on the issue.